Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to Adobe Live. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and today I have the amazing pleasure of sitting down once again with the one and only Brandon Groce. How are you, Brandon?
I am good, man. I'm excited for day 2, and I'm ready to get cracking. How about you?
I'm excited as well. So we saw a lot of fun stuff yesterday from the designs you're putting together. Saw a little bit of video, a little bit of Lottie, and I'm sure we're going to see a lot more of that today. Before we dive in, I want to say a big hello, good morning, afternoon, or evening to everyone joining us in the chat. We've got Eric, who says, my new video added XD stuff looking sick. Thank you, Eric. And Chris and Joan, Wimo, Val, the Andongo. That's a great name. I like it. And Laura, great to see all of you. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Brandon. If anyone missed yesterday, Brandon, tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're going to be doing today, and what you covered yesterday.
For sure. If you guys don't know me, I create design content, whether we're talking UI, UX, or trying to move into some NFT space stuff, but I create educational content for designers like yourself. And I'm excited to be here with Howard and on Adobe Live to run you through some awesome stuff in Adobe XD, a lot of the new features, specifically as Howard mentioned, Lottie, and some of the video stuff, and really excited about getting into animation and some movement as well today. So for those of you guys who weren't here yesterday, let's talk a little bit about what we did and what we're going to dive into today. So I even like documented this stuff because these are my talking points and I would have forgotten. So
I love it. I forget things all the time during my streams.
Yeah, it was like the 5 things that we talked about yesterday. There's exciting people, there's me and you, we have good conversations, people in the chat, I have to design, and then I have to keep things intact. So yesterday we did we didn't do any auto animation, but we did get some of the infrastructure of a design down, and we did get into some of the video features and Lottie on a base level. But today, hopefully, we'll be able to have some more fun with it, as well as kind of complete what we went through. So kind of and by the way, just in total, if you guys didn't read the title, we are creating a social platform for creatives called Create On. So far, what we have done is created the login and dashboard experience. Those look like these. We have a little bit of video action over here.
Look at that video.
Oh yes, it's indeed delicious.
It's amazing how one motion interactive element can just take something to a whole new level.
For sure, because literally without the video, this is what it looks like. This is what we did. We did one logo, one text box, one button, and then a screenshot with some purple.
Now on that logo, Brandon, is that a tail at the top? Is that little hair? What is that, a wire? What is that?
It's for abstract interpretation.
Okay, that works.
I have no idea. But when you said a hair, I was like, you know what? I should just say alfalfa.
It's like Earthworm Jim or something.
Yeah, it's kind of supposed to be a TV and like wiggly antenna, but you know, we'll leave it up to the imagination. What do you guys think it is in the chat? We'll leave it up. And so with our first, actually went through and actually changed some of these things. So we did some hover interactions with our videos. We actually changed who is live streaming. We have Jazz. Oh, we got some of these to change, but some of our hover states, they just forgot our creator names. So we do need to go ahead and fix that, but we did get our hover states for our video in there.
Let me actually jump in there for 1 second, just in case anyone's wondering what's going on when you're hovering and some of the things are changing and some are not. That is a known limitation that the team has been working on for quite some time, actually. It requires, architectural changes in the back end called horizontal syncing. Essentially, if you have a component and you have 2 states and you have an instance of that component, then you change, let's say, someone's name or someone's image. At the moment, it doesn't propagate to the other states from the default state. That will, I believe, be improved hopefully early next year. So that's something that the team's been working on, and it's going to make our lives just that much easier.
All right, cool beans. Well, then hopefully in the near future, we won't have to go back and forth. But regardless, we get video, guys. That's what's awesome. So we just did very quickly, essentially, we are showcasing creatives that are live streaming. We have 4 amazing creatives here. We have like suggested channels. We have other popular channels. And then we also have just a copy of the above down below, just as recommended videos. And what we are hoping to do today is kind of not just have the screens. Yes, the screens look cool, but how do we have, like, for example, how I thought about doing these day 1 and day 2 is if we were to send this off to a client as almost a finished prototype, what would that, if we were like pitching them on this experience, what would the final project look like? So that's what we'll have at the end of today, and that I'm excited to do with you guys. If we have more time, we have another page I just very quickly just put together, which is like Brandon's videos, if it's my profile, but that's if we get through everything else that we get through today.
That sounds good. Now, speaking a little bit about the developer handoff, as you're working on projects, I'm sure you've worked on a ton of client projects. How does that typically look? Do you share your work as you're going, every single page, or do you wait until the end to share it off? Do you share wireframes and then final? What's your process look like?
It really depends on the client. There are some clients where they see every single part of the process, where they need to see they need to be involved in the wireframing. They need to be involved in, the iterations of those wireframes. They need to be involved in the mutation or the next changes into the hi-fi. So there's, some clients that really need, they want to hold your hand, not you holding their hand.
For better or for worse.
Yeah, for better or for worse. But, once, that's usually when you're working with a client for the first time, the people that you build relationships with, once you've performed with them and, they kind of trust you, they will just let you kind of go on your own. And, you'll have check-ins for, hey, this is like the end of the wireframes. This is kind of what we're thinking about for the experience. Okay, great. Awesome. This is what we learned from our, user research and through testing the experience. This is our plan for going into hi-fi. And they're like, okay, don't worry. We'll just talk to you when you get those iterations done. We have another meeting. So as you build relationships with clients, you have less and less meetings. But it's about relationships. Do you do good work? Are you building trust with the people you're working with? Yeah, trust, good work. That's it.
Totally. And honestly, there's no better feeling than when a client says, I trust you, just show it to me when you're finished. That's when you know that you're starting to do really good work. And, of course, certain clients just love seeing every step of the process. And that doesn't mean you're doing bad work. It's just, like you said, Brandon, every client is a little bit different and they work a little bit differently.
Definitely.
Hey, Andrea and Bohana. Who else came in? Quays. Great to see all of you. If anyone has questions for Brandon throughout his stream, definitely throw it in the chat. I will be taking a look from time to time.
Yes. All right. So with that said, since we have the foundation, what I really want to start with is I've really been itching to create the sort of, how do you say, when you finally click a link of a website and there's like the loading screen, or like there is a kind of, the page is coming to life for you to sign in. So essentially, what is this page going to look like before it actually loads, or how are the things going to animate in? That's the first thing that we're going to do together. And actually, while we do this, this is always funny, Howard. I'm going to see if it actually works before I say anything. But how come in some cases, and this like, when I'm by myself in my corner, right? Not on the internet streaming, I can prototype my artboards together, right? And I can pull certain components off and they don't go off screen. So how do we make it so that when we want to prototype, I know the major, I guess, hack for this was to just group everything. That way you can pull things off of the artboard. You taught me that in the first place.
Yep.
But there's another trick, isn't there, when it comes to prototyping things? And
yeah, so grouping is probably your best bet because,
right.
Naturally, if you pull something off of an artboard, you're telling XD, move it onto the pasteboard. But right. In some cases, I believe maybe you have to have auto animate turned on. But once you have an artboard wired up, you should be able to pull something off into the pasteboard. So see if you can change it over to auto animate on that first transition.
Let's see. Boom, transition, auto animate.
and see if you can move something now. No.
Hmm.
I'm gonna have to look into it because that's how you can also do it typically, but
Yeah.
it doesn't look like it's working on your end.
I've been trying to the last couple times I've been on Adobe Live, I'm like, and this is how you do it. And then Adobe Live or XD is like, you shall not, because that's what I use. It's easier for me, at least, than the grouping. The group kind of it works, but the workflow with the prototyping everything together, just hooking things up, is just so much smoother because you don't have to group things.
Yeah, totally. I'm gonna give it a shot while you're designing, just to see if maybe something changed in the latest update, either intentionally or unintentionally. And if it did, I will definitely bug the team about it. It might be you.
It's just like yesterday. It has been proven again and again to be me. All right. So while you're testing that, what I'm doing here, chat, is I've grouped everything that I have on my left side of my artboard, because what I want to do here is I want to animate some things off of the board. We want that initial animation of this website experience. So I have this stuff grouped. I'm going to also make sure that I name this group, not just group 37. So I'm just going to have this called left group, and I'm going to duplicate this. So this is going to be our initial state. This is where we want the animation to end. And this is what I love about XD, is I don't have to think about keyframes. I don't have to think about any of that other stuff. Honestly, I can just be like, I want to start from here and I want to end up here. So what I can do is I can just start pulling some of this stuff off, turning the opacity down, just kind of thinking about how I want some things to animate in, out, things of that nature.
This kind of goes back to our discussion yesterday about whether or not a timeline makes sense in XD. A lot of motion can just be done by creating two artboards, designing what it should look like on both, and then wiring them up. Or you can do it, amongst states and components. But it just makes it so much simpler to design visually, because we're all visual people. So being able to see what it's going to look like at the beginning, what it's going to look like at the end, just makes so much sense.
And something is happening here. What is happening, dear login friend? All right. So this is masked, which is fine, but I want to scale this up. You know what I think it is? I think I might have pasted the video on top of this, but it's okay. We'll figure this out.
Yeah, try enlarging the mask by itself and then moving the video, because the video aspect ratio is locked, so it might be.
It's doing this.
Was there a box over top of it, maybe?
Yeah. So this is the mask. Mm-hmm. That's what I grabbed at first, but it's doing some very odd thing. You see what I'm saying? You see that? All right, we'll figure it out. We're just gonna make another one because because that one is not being nice. Yeah, because I know how this works. We're just gonna create another rectangle, easy day. I'm gonna select both, mask with shape, and I'm just gonna recenter this. And we're just gonna pull this and replace. We're just gonna delete it. It's not our friend today. It's been replaced.
And Wemo in the chat is saying that the dragging off the artboard does work for him on the latest update on the Mac, and I just confirmed that it does work for me as well. So either it's a Windows problem or it's a you problem, Brandon.
We all know which one is more feasible. All right. So aside of me having all the problems today, we're gonna go back and I just replaced the mask here because I know. See here, this is exactly how it should be acting. I'm just gonna full scale this mask. I'm gonna pull this so that it is full width. I'm gonna kind of scale it up a little bit too. And let's see, do I even want this to be? I'm trying to think.
I love hearing designers think out loud.
Yeah, I'm like, how should this work? So let's see how this looks at first, and then we'll continue because I don't want to make too many decisions just yet. So I'm just going to go to my prototype tab here. I'm going to pull this over. I'm going to make a timed trigger. I'm just going to add 1 second of delay just so I can have time for my pupils to, take a look at it. We always do snap. And we're just gonna up this to like 0.6 seconds just so I can see what's kind of
You
happening
may
here.
run into a problem, but I'm going to let that problem happen. Go ahead.
No. Oh, you know, okay, it's the video. It's not gonna split. Was that
So
it?
let me jump in there, because just in case someone's wondering what the problem is, at the very moment, as of Adobe XD 45, which is the current version, you can only have one time trigger active at the same time. So technically, a video playing is a time trigger. So you launch it, it's playing automatically. That's the time trigger. Brandon also set up a time trigger from that artboard to the next artboard.
Yes.
As a workaround right now, you can do a tap trigger or a gamepad or a key trigger or something like that. This limitation, I believe, will be fixed in the next version of Adobe XD 46, which is either this month or early next month. So, a lot of fixes and improvements coming. Some things took a little bit longer than others, but yeah, that's what's going on here.
Well, could we do this? Could we do a time, like go to this video? And I mean, obviously the easy way is to tap. But if I wanted to keep this video, I shortened it to 5 seconds and have the play after that 5 seconds basically jump to the next artboard. Could we do that?
Yes, so you can use the end of playback trigger. You would just hook it onto the existing video. Boom. And then drag that handle to the second artboard.
All right, let's see what we got. So this, I think, this is end of playback. I'm not sure if it's, I don't know. All right, because I have it here, but I don't think this is the, guys, I'm trying to learn with you guys, but we'll just do the click for right now. We'll come back and play later. All right, because we will be here for like 5 minutes. All right, so let's see. All right, let me switch up some of the things here. We got our snap, we got the 0.6. And we do want to have it on the autoplay. So we're gonna go back in here. Here, not in prototype design, custom playback, nope, automatically play. All right, so we can click, boom. Oh, look at that.
Look at that, that was fancy. Do that again, just in case anyone missed it.
It's just one more time. And actually, one more question. I couldn't figure out on my own, Howard. It might've just been the way that I clipped the video. But that little glitch here, is that most likely probably how I clipped the video, or I was going back and forth?
What it could be, I didn't catch the entire thing, but at some point you replace the video, so maybe the mask name is different. I would just make sure everything's named the same.
Yeah.
Oh, that looks okay.
Yeah, it's the same. Like even if we come over here, it's kind of the same. So like when I hover, there's that little glitch. I wonder if
interesting.
I bet it's just what I recorded. But again, small things that we can iron out as we go. But
you can also check the trimming feature and see if there is that glitch in the actual video.
Let's see what we got. Boom, boom.
Trim. Maybe not. Yeah.
Yeah. Because I was thinking, I was like, well, maybe it's in, nope. It's in the, yeah, I don't remember what I thought. But those are the small things that we'll figure out as we go. Everything else, like I was able to clear these up. But animation is key first, guys. Let's do that. And then we can start playing around and deep diving into this video stuff, Howard, unless you have like, like immediate thoughts.
Nope. Go for it. Keep going.
All right,
it's looking good so far.
All right, so the next thing we're gonna do is we want to, once we click log in, we want to kind of push everything away and kind of deal with, we wanna start messing with some Lottie. So we're gonna have some, like a little bit of a Lottie animation. Actually, we're gonna see if this actually works. This is not something that I mentally thought would work, but it might do some things. So what I'm going to do is once we press log in, I'm going to go to prototype here, pull this over here, make sure it's tapped. Yep, everything we need is there. I'm going to go back here actually because I want to increase this to like 2 because that was happening a little too quickly for my liking. I like to walk, Howard. I don't like to run. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start making these things fly off the screen. Yet again, we just brought them on, but now we're going to push them away. Just selecting all this. This is going to come off first. This is going to come off second. And if you guys didn't know, Howard was actually the one who taught me this. The further, I probably already taught everybody. You know, the further you move things away from the artboard, the faster that they move, or the longer that. I think it depends on all of your settings, but
yeah, it's a nice little hack, because I know a lot of designers, including myself, would love the ability to bring elements into view at slightly different speeds, and that's potentially where something like a timeline or something in that ballpark would come into play. But in the meantime, if you move things further on the first artboard, then they kind of give the impression that that's happening, sort of. But you know, it's a hack for now.
Yes. And give me a second, guys. I need to move something off of my Zoom. Keeps telling me hi, and I can't get to my plugin. Yeah, I have no idea why.
Control-Shift-P, I think, will get to your plugins as well.
Thank you, good sir.
That'll do it.
All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just look for loading here. And actually, you know what? I have one already. Okay. This is what we have. This is the one I wanted to have fun with. But I basically typed in loading into Lottie, and let me move this to, it should be playing. I wonder if this is because
I believe technically have the video still on that artboard.
Right.
So you'll want to find it and then turn the playback off. This is part of that limitation I was talking about earlier, which will likely be fixed in the next version.
Oh, good. And we're learning live, guys. Like, what is awesome is I'm getting to learn all of the limitations, because there was, I was like, I think this works. And then I was like, well, I don't know what I did wrong. All right, cool. So we have our Lottie. It's very nice. I don't necessarily like the colors. It's a beautiful animation. So I'm actually, I wonder if I can do this. We'll see. I'm going to slap it with our purple color. Let's go down to color, and I think I'm gonna have to just expand this because we do have a dark background, unless I can figure out a blend mode that does not touch black. Howard, do you know one?
Or soft if that's light, even a maybe. Thing. Or hue. Did you try hue yet?
I did not. Aha! There we go. What is the difference between hue and color? They are the same to me. It's just like one is just a little bit more elitist than the other.
I think hue is more like hue is more a shift in the tones, and color is more of like a splat of color over top of the layer, the layers, I believe. And I did mention this yesterday, but if anyone didn't tune into the stream, if you do want to edit Lottie animations, if you go to lottiefiles.com/editor, you can actually import your Lottie files there, and then as long as they are layer based and vector based, you can edit all the colors and layers and all that stuff directly from Lottie files, and then you can actually save it to your Lottie files account, which does sync with the Lottie files plugin in Adobe XD, which is super cool. And I did see that Cornell's asking if there's any way to export animated artboards as Lottie files. There is not. Hopefully at some point in the future. I believe that would probably require some sort of a timeline or components with time triggers. So hopefully when either of those do ship, then maybe that might be a possibility, but I'm sure there's a lot more to it than that.
Right. So just messing around with a couple things here. So we have our, we didn't like that snap. It came a little too slow and snapped a little too much. We want it to go in place. And we have a couple things to fix here. We had a little background piece. So far, so good though. We have the direction that we want to go, but there's a couple of things. This is like the part of design where it's just you have the idea, but there's a lot of troubleshooting, which is why I kind of leave it for day 2, because I like everything all at one time.
And Joan in the chat is asking if we can make Lottie files in After Effects, and absolutely. So Lottie files are typically made in After Effects, and there are 2 plugins that you can use One is called Lottie files for After Effects, and one is called body movin. Both of them essentially do the same thing. They will take your vector-based After Effects animations, and they will export them as either .lottie or .json. Now, .json is what's supported in Adobe XD. You can also, if you use the Lottie files plugin for After Effects, I think it's called an extension actually, you can save it directly to your account and access those in Adobe XD. I believe probably by the end of the week, I'll have a video showing that process. It's almost complete, so stay tuned for that. But yeah, absolutely. Use the Lottie files or body movement extension for After Effects, and you can save out your Lottie files and bring them into XD.
Oh. This I did not know.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so trying to think here. I just deleted a artboard of mine, just trying to go through some of the things that I necessarily didn't like here. All right, got to go back to a prototype. We want to put our login back over here. All right, let's see what that does. Boom. All right, those disappear. Now we want to push this video off to the side so we can reveal basically another loading animation that we just got from Lottie.
Mm-hmm.
This is why I like to do it step by step. Every single time that I do, how do you say? Every time I don't just like do a little bit, then check. And next thing you know, I'm like halfway done with the design. It's always a hot mess. There's so much to go back. Yes. Do you feel the same?
I do.
Yeah, so always check your work, guys. I'm going to drop this rectangle to 0. Okay. And now we want, trying to find where I put our blob. Blob loading should be 100%. Cool. All right, let's see what we got. So we got this, we're gonna tap it, boom. Okay. All right, and that started a little, maybe it didn't start a little too slow, but maybe we can.
Maybe a little bit.
Yeah.
It could have been the transition might have been a little bit too slow. Was there a snap on there?
Let's see. On the, oh, you know what? There's a 2-second thing.
Oh, there's a delay too.
Let's see. Tap.
Yeah, that's probably caused it because at the end of that transition, it kind of does a blue. I don't know.
Yeah.
Some sort of transition that snaps and it delays the animation. There we go.
Got it. You know what's actually interesting? I still see the video over here, so that needs to be like 100% or drop to 0. Question: there can be more than one Lottie that plays, but there can't be more than one video.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
And you can actually have a video and a Lottie playing at the same time if you initiate the second interaction. So if a video is playing and then you start a micro interaction and you reveal, a component state or something like that, then you can have the video and Lottie playing at the same time.
Got it. All right, so I'm going to drop this down to 1 second.
I do see Bohan in the chat saying that the Lottie extension in After Effects there's an issue. I did actually notice earlier. Let me check something. Yeah. So on mine, it's also saying that it's not compatible for some reason. I'm going to ask the team about that. I'm not sure if they maybe just didn't update it for the latest version of After Effects, which got updated last week. But I'll ask the team and see if they might happen to know.
All right. So let's see. Now the Lottie is, I'm trying to think, because we want the Lottie after a certain amount of time, we want to do a time animation to jump to this next artboard. And I think, because this one I haven't necessarily done yet. I think there was one that I was running into a little bit of issues last night. So is this when we can, because we can't do a time thing like this, right? End of playback.
No, but you can do end of playback.
All right, let's hope that it is a short animation.
And make sure, as long as it's not looping, it should transition over.
Let's make sure that it's not looping. Let's turn that off. All right, cool. And that was a nice little fade. So far, so good. We have troubleshooted down, tap, boom, this animates in. Still want to figure out why that happens, but we'll leave that to a little bit later. Press log in, a little bit of a loading. We can probably add some loading text down there. And let's see, we might actually have this animate upwards. We're gonna put it right above, basically behind everything on this previous artboard. We're gonna pull it down. I think I put it in a folder. Do not want to do that. All right, paste it here, drop it in between these folders, push it down a couple pixels, reduce the opacity, and just make sure it's in the same spot over here on this artboard. Let me just close all these, put it between left group and blob loading. And I'm just gonna drop it to like 50, 70. All right, let's see, play again. Boom, plays, log in, loading. That does not seem centered, Brandon. This is
not too bad though.
Yeah, I'm trying to, I don't know. You know, it's probably the Lottie where there's like
right,
an
extra. Yeah, it's technically centered, but you might want to visually center with the blob in the middle.
Yeah. Play with that. I'm also going to steal the X coordinates, just plop it on to our loading over here because we had to move it. Just a little bit. All right. All right, now we can play with the first desktop screen. All right, so what I really wanted to do with this, because there's a lot on this and I absolutely love creating like auto scrolling animations. Actually, out of curiosity, Howard, do you see a lot of people utilizing auto scrolling animations for their prototypes, or more so for like a short showcase?
So when you say auto scrolling, what exactly do you mean?
So like if I group this in tire puppy and prototyped, boom. Let's go to design real quick. And then I just like each section, like basically trying to mimic if it were, oops, let me do a back here, not a tap, time 0. Like mimicking a scrolling user so that you can
so without manually scrolling, right?
Yeah. And that way kind of you can fake multiple different animative interactions per artboard. Unless that's
I
like
don't
a
see
really
it
old
often.
way.
Yeah, I don't see it often, but I do know a lot of people are wanting scroll triggers so that when you actually perform an actual scroll using your mouse or trackpad or whatever, then something would happen. I know that's something the team wants to get to at some point, but haven't gotten around to it yet.
Well, today we're going to go over the Brandon, the street version of auto scrolling. All right, so before we jump into that, I do want did I group everything here? Yes, perfect. I want to do an initial on-page load for this. So I'm just going to duplicate this here. And I'm trying to think, how do we...
And Christiana's asking, where did you get the video?
Great questions, because those of you who were here yesterday, you know where we got everything. But the people who showed up today probably just think, oh my goodness, Brandon, are these your videos? No, there's a lot better artists and creatives out there than me. So let me there's one more video. There we go. Trying to get all the artists, got to show them all love. But all these videos are from Behance, lovely creatives like Chris. We have Christy Sanderson. We have Two Senseless. We have Jazz the Artist. All of these are live streamers on Behance, Jack Watson. And then we have this beautiful piece of video that we're using for the login page from Lord Bros. There's multiple individuals of that, but if you guys want to check that out, Val, I'm plopping this in the chat. If you can do a clickable link so people can check that out, that would be awesome.
I'm going to deny it.
Denied. All right.
Victor is asking, can I save Lottie files as components in an XD library? So mostly yes. So you can definitely create a component that contains a Lottie animation and save that as a component in your document assets, and you can publish that library. However, at the moment, CC Libraries as a whole doesn't support native Lottie files. So if you just want a Lottie file, you won't be able to save that into your library just yet. You would have to convert that into a component first and then save it. That should work.
And you know what's something, guys? I've been bad. Let's just say that. I don't know how I got from 1440. Maybe I was just up late last night. Too many cookies, too many chocolate chips. And I don't even have the same width between these, which is horrible. Yeah, that's really bad. I don't know how I did that.
It's not good.
Let's see. I'm just gonna duplicate these. Maybe I won't jack them up too bad. Let's just hope. It's gonna mess a lot of stuff up. Oh,
we'll just pretend everything's fine.
Yeah. The first part is fine, guys. There's nothing visual until I tried to do something tricky. So we're just gonna move on.
I didn't even notice until you pointed it out.
I didn't notice. There's not even an option for artboards for 1277. So I don't know what happened. Okay, so what we're gonna do is we're just gonna mess with where we get to this artboard, and we're just gonna start scrolling, and we're gonna start populating some of these next sections. All right, so first off, I grouped, if you guys missed this, I essentially took this artboard, I duplicated it. I, by the way, grouped everything on the artboard so I can pull it up without really messing anything up. And what I'm going to do is I actually want to turn off all of these other elements that are not in the first viewport here. So for example, again,
I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, thinking about like before and afters. Howard, did you think we were just going to spend 30 minutes with like scrolling down the entire page?
Yeah, I was wondering what you were doing. I'm like, you can just use your trackpad, Brandon.
No. Yeah, we really want to get some complex stuff happening. Yeah. Now I know why you were asking yesterday, Brandon, are you going to have any more things to do tomorrow? Now I understand where that came from. All right, so we
sit here and talk about simulations and metaverse and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, I can do that any day that I want, man. We're gonna get into some serious stuff. All right, so we have our first scrolling animation, but now our first things that are going to be what just happened? That are going to be populating. If this works for me, I don't know why it's. Oh, I think I just hovered, and it stopped the animation. That was interesting. Okay. New thing to learn. Okay.
That was likely because of that same limitation we were talking about earlier. When you hovered, you activated the video, which canceled out the existing time trigger.
Exactly.
Again, something that will likely be fixed in the next version.
All right. So I don't want this stuff to just be, this is where I want it to end up, right? I want all those things to show up, but now we're going to kind of design the previous state, how we want things to actually shuffle out. We're going to figure that out. So we are going to drop this channel suggestions just down, turn the opacity down. And I wonder if I took these away, I've never tried this, but Howard, if I just left it to 1, would XD like know enough to like pull?
It sure would.
Ooh, I messed it up. I was already scrolling. Hold on. Huh. Wow. I've never done that. Usually I would select all of them and then push them under one another. I'm sure that 2 very different animation effects. Actually, let's see what that looks like. I'm just gonna, if there's a difference in animation, I'm just gonna select these, drop them down here.
So we do have someone in the chat asking about I believe he's asking about the quality of a Lottie file on the artboard. So one thing to point out is that even though the Lottie file, the animation itself is in more cases than not SVG and vector, when it plays back, it should look crisp and beautiful. But the actual still frame is essentially a flattened bitmap. It's like a rasterized bitmap. So when you plop it on your artboard, if you enlarge it, or it was a small file to begin with, the actual preview on the artboard might look a little bit pixelated and low quality. But again, more often than not, when you play it, it should look fine and crispy.
Fine and crispy.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that's what my dinner tastes like tonight. I burnt my lunch.
What did you make?
You really can't make fun of me. I burnt soup.
You burnt soup?
I literally was here trying to figure out some of the stuff that we were going to do today, and I left the stove on, literally burnt all this. Well, you can't burn soup, but it basically all the soup evaporated, and I just had noodles left, and I was just like, nice.
I'm just picturing Brandon sitting there licking the bottom of a pot because there's no more soup.
That's kind of what it was, man. That there, yeah. I took what I could from the noodles. Yeah, that's all I can say. Some of it did taste like fries. Not gonna lie about that. All right, so let's see here. I'm trying to. So what? For those of you guys who are wondering, this was super easy. I was like, oh, well, this the repeat grid. That's really awesome. But I wonder. Wait, hold on.
Oh, an idea.
Can I put these under each? Wow.
Yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, don't do that.
Okay. I don't even know what I did, but we're just gonna pretend that didn't happen. And we're gonna see what happens here. We're gonna let it run. All right, for some reason it's not scrolling.
I think you hovered by mistake.
Brandon, don't touch, just move. All right, boom. All right, cool. I did see a little bit of, let's see what we can do here. I want to pull this up just a little bit further.
Jonah's asking, so you can only have 2 Lottie files at the same time per artboard. No, so you can actually have, I believe, 20. I believe it's 20 Lottie files playing at the same time on your artboard. Now, of course, if you have a video playing, you can't have the video and Lottie files play automatically. But if you have the video playing, like I was saying earlier, then you can initiate the additional Lottie files. I do have, actually, I think I posted on Dribble. I have this camera experience that I designed that kind of shows like Instagram stickers or that sort of thing, where there's a video playing in the background, and then I initiated a component state, which popped up this little, kind of like a, I don't know what it's called, like a drawer of stickers. And then all those Lottie files were playing. I think there were like 16 of them playing at the same time. So yeah, there are a few limitations, but as long as you kind of follow the rules at the moment until they're fixed, then yeah, you can have multiple things playing at the same time.
Trying to kind of fix myself here. Auto animate, yes. All right, I had to go back a little bit. I think I touched something that I wasn't supposed to, and it made the animating of all those things kind of look a little funky. All right, so we have that. I also kind of want to do the same thing with this box here. Just pull it in a little bit, turn the opacity down. Kind of just want that.
Just imagine the thoughts of developers right now as you're doing it.
Listen, they can do this. if you have you seen there's some really crazy things that I'm just like, oh my God. Not that I'm gonna get fired, but I was like, this next generation is crazy. Some of the interactive things that you don't need to necessarily know how to like code it. Man, I can't think of the names. But just like interactive things that you can bypass developers now as just a creative.
Right. Yep.
Is insane.
But the moral of the story is, if you are working with developers, talk to your developers and engineers to see what they're able to do, what they're not able to do. You can do some crazy stuff. Like if you've seen Apple's landing pages for their various products, you can do some like banana things on landing pages and mobile apps, especially with Lottie and things like that. But not all developers are able to do that. So definitely talk with them and see what they're capable of.
For sure. And I think that's communication is just always number one. We can always do anything under the sun, but if you're in a team setting and you haven't like scouted the ability of who you're working with, that's never that good. You want to strategize with your team to conquer, not be like, oh, that's actually really difficult. A lot of what you see is some solo talented people. They're not necessarily good in the team environment, but the people who might not be as technically sound as those, because for some reason, they make up in the team skill building or skill set, and they actually help teams go further than the individual person who's just like amazing at everything.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if I explained that well at all.
Sort of. It worked.
My brain, it's the soup, guys. Just
yeah, I can definitely speak for myself and probably a lot of designers. I don't like talking to people. I don't like people in general, but it's got to be done when you're working with clients and developers, because the last thing you want is to work for hours and hours and hours on a project, and then you hand it off and the developer's like, what in the world is this? I cannot do any of this. Go back and redo it.
Yeah. So
as early as you can, talk to your team, talk to your developers, and just figure things out.
Yes, developers.
And someone's asking about Nucleo. I believe this was for me. So Nucleo is actually a third-party icon manager. It's essentially just an application you can take all your icons and just pop them in there. I use it because I have icons. I have icon libraries from all over the place. Some are internal icons. Some I've purchased throughout the years. And it just keeps everything nice and organized together. If you don't have those icons, Icons for Design is a fantastic plugin. Brandon did show that off a little bit yesterday. Or you can also use Creative Cloud libraries. I do have a few libraries that contain some icons as well. So that's another route you can go down.
All right. So this might look a little jacked up, or just we're testing things, guys. I don't know how this is going to look. Oh, I didn't even prototype this. So just pulling this again, making sure that it's a timed animation. I'm not sure if I want to have a delay, but we'll see what it looks like. We'll do 1 point. I think we're just going to leave everything at 1 second, and we're going to go back to these as well. Make sure that they are 2 seconds or 1 second. We're going to start from here. All right, we're going to go back to 2. we're going to go back to 2. I couldn't even see what was going on. In our artist spotlight, I cannot wait. Like this, what he has been able to do in XD without some of the video features, I'm just like, I give up.
I haven't looked yet, so I'm excited to find out. But,
I'm excited to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, I've been loving seeing everyone going back to their older projects and just adding videos into things. Because I think a lot of people created XD projects previously, and they just like verbally told a developer that, a video is going to go here, or they just created an area on their project hoping at some point in the future video would be supported in XD. And now they're all going back and throwing videos into everything, and it just looks awesome.
Yeah, like before, one of the things that I saw from him was before videos, he would export PNG sequences of video and make like, you already know where I'm going.
I've seen this before, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, you could do that? And I was like, first off, I would not be sitting there exporting all 156 whatchamacallits, but I was like, I can't lie, right? It looks absolutely stunning, the outcome.
I've done some crazy things in XD. I've pushed it to its limits, but I just don't have the patience to set up like 400 artboards with PNGs on every single one just to fake a video.
Yeah, it's hey, looks good in the portfolio. What can we say? All right, stacking these. Turning that off. Dropping this down. Turning that off. And so this is just our basic stuff, guys. This is, and I'll explain why I'm doing this. Oh, I hovered again. Let's see, will it take it afterwards? No.
I think possibly if you set the time trigger to have no delay on that first artboard, that should solve that problem.
True.
I think if you do 0, 0, it should do it. Yeah, of course you can't see it right away, but you know.
Man.
That's not bad.
Yeah. So things are coming together, guys. Things slowly.
Yep.
All right, so we missed.
Rebecca is saying, I bet I know who it is. I think she's referring to the spotlight, and she's asking if you chose the person.
I did, because people need to see this.
You're hyping it up a lot, Brandon. I'm excited for
my
this.
Mind. Because I'm like, how? When? Where do you get the time to do this? I'm trying
Those
to
are
study.
the best projects. When you sit there as a designer and say, how did you do that? That's when it really hits home.
Yeah. I'm just like, it's inspiring. All right, so boom, we got this. Got some loading happening, some slow auto scrolling. Oh, that we didn't get to see those animate in. Okay, we got that. All right. Okay, so let me see. I'm just gonna turn these off just because they're bothering me. I'm gonna turn the rest of these off too. And to kind of go back to, I think we can delete this because maybe not. I'm not going to delete the wrong one. Or probably am. So whatever. I'll leave it. I will let it exist. Okay. So the whole reason why I have this set up like this, usually when I do this because we don't have that scroll sort of experience yet, is some of the clients like to be walked through. If someone were actually scrolling down a screen, what would actually happen? How would the site live, I guess? There's still some animations that I want to have there that didn't pop through. And of course we can, what I typically do, and I'll explain it once we do this, I'll do a full scroll down, then scroll up, then have like each section will actually be able to interact with, because with the auto scrolling, you can't really click anything unless you give a large amount of delay to actually do some of those interactions, and you like rehearse during the showcase.
Now, one thing that I'll throw out there, and I don't expect you to do this today because it's probably a little bit complicating, but I've seen a few people who want the scroll interactions. What they do as a workaround is they have everything on one artboard, but each section is a component with a hover state that spans the entire width of the artboard. So as you're scrolling, your pointer is naturally going to hit that area at some point, and the hover will be that interaction, right? And then you can keep scrolling to the next hover component, and then you'll kind of see your elements fly out or do whatever it does.
Wow. I didn't even think about that. That's like next level. Like that's the stuff that you can do when you like really spend time, because you can do that's the complexity that we're talking about. Everything is possible really in XD. It's just like, how are you thinking about necessarily making it? Like I had those tools at my disposal, but I didn't think about using them in that way.
So it's something to try out possibly. Someone in the chat is referencing a very old masterclass, I think episode 5, the Animal Crossing one. And I actually remember this very well. I was running into an issue where I was trying to drag images into the experience and the artboard, and there was some weird error message that popped up that I've never seen before. I actually figured out after the fact, most of my assets are stored on OneDrive so that I can access it between multiple computers. And those specific assets were not synced to my computer at the time. So they were just kind of 2 kilobyte previews that didn't really exist because I didn't sync them locally. And that's why that issue was happening. So it wasn't a problem with XD, it was more a problem with me forgetting to sync things. Which happens a lot.
As per the last yesterday and today with me.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's see. So I'm going to go back. So we have pretty much a good start with everything. I'm going to go back and clean up a couple of things. So we have our login. We have our loading. Boom. Everything here is clean. I do want to go ahead and fix some of the hovering things here, where we have our creator names not in there in the title. So I'm going to go ahead and fix that. And then we're going to go ahead.
Sorry to interrupt, Brandon, but I think in a situation like this, even though, like I mentioned earlier, this is a limitation that will be fixed at some point in hopefully the near future. But in situations like this, where the title, the creator, the button down at the bottom doesn't have to change on the hover state, I would just keep the video itself separate as a component. That way, you don't have to worry about updating things twice on each of those cards.
So, and then you would, on the hover of this is another thing that I actually haven't done, where the hover on this particular element only activates the hover on the video.
So that element down there, so you can have 2 components actually. So you can have an overall component that houses everything that does not have a hover effect. And then inside that, you can have the individual video components with the hover effect, so that the information down below does not change.
Because we don't need the stuff down to change. We just want the video to play. Got it. Okay, that'd have been a lot smarter to do rather than just having all of this be like one thing. I'm like, I don't really want to go and retype everything, but we'll do it. Let's see if we can do that. Yeah, that would have been a lot smarter for me to do. And I wonder if this will actually mess up any of the other because we're changing it. Oh, they're actually okay. They are components. I was like, oof. I know if I were doing this by myself or just like messing around, they would not be components. I was a little worried.
Yep.
All right. We want this. Let's see. On both of these, those are fine. Default. Just gonna pull this. Hover. Change. Just a lot of copy and paste, guys.
Well, I asked this yesterday, and it looks like we have a little bit more people today, so I'm curious to ask again. Now that we have video, we have Lottie, we have a few additional things in XD, what do you all in the chat want to see next in terms of large feature? Some things have been already confirmed that are in development, but I would love to hear, without mentioning dark mode, I would love to hear what you all want to see in XD next. And Brandon, if you had a magic ball, what would you want to see in XD?
I want to be able to build, I want a win button. I want to have and I know there's plugins that kind of coincide with XD to take everything. And there actually was some sneaks last year that I was super excited about. But I didn't get to see anything this year where there was some sort of applications with XD that you can press some button and it somehow works. Yeah, that's my cat. I hope she doesn't throw up. I apologize.
She's screaming dark mode, dark mode, dark mode.
I'm so sorry that you guys can hear that. I heard that. I was like, oh God. She might be having a little bit of an episode. She's like 20 years old. I'm sorry.
All good. My dog usually barks when I'm streaming anyway.
Yeah, I apologize, guys. I just hope you just send prayers for my kitty. All right. Okay. All right. So we did fix those there. All right. So now what we're gonna do is wait. Did I answer your question? I don't think I did.
You sort of said a win button, which was weird, but then you kind of started to explain that it was, more of like a. I remember the sneak last year where they were able to kind of connect to a server and then update their it's an interesting idea. I know that a lot of people want a way to press a button and export it as a website, and there are plugins that do it, but in all honesty, I've spoken to a lot of developers who have taken a look at these plugins, not just XD plugins, but plugins from various applications.
Yeah.
And the code, while it works, it's just not up to par with actual developers. So we're still a long way away from pressing a button and having a website. But I know Ran in the chat is asking for collaboration and a place you can edit and design simultaneously to other designers. So what's it called? XD has co-editing. So you and 20, 30, 40 other designers can all edit the document at the same time. And we just announced Spaces, which is in a very private beta right now, which is a place that you and your team can house different projects and assets and things like that. So there's a lot of collaboration features already in XD with co-editing and Creative Cloud libraries and shared prototypes and things like that. But we're going to continue to get better. Renaming the default state, absolutely. Multiple time triggers on one artboard, absolutely. I think some of that you might see in the next version of XD. What else do we have here? More text editing features. Yes, Chris. Absolutely. There's no denying the fact that XD needs more text features. The short answer to that is, what was that, Brandon?
What will we have? Yeah, I'm interested to hear what other things you guys are thinking about for that.
Yeah, I forget the exact like right to left support, and there are a bunch that things that Photoshop and Illustrator have that XD does not. But the short answer to that is the text engine in XD is what has been there from day one, so it needs a complete rewrite. I believe that might be in active development, but that's the reason why new text features are not being added, because it wouldn't make sense to add more onto the pile and then have to rewrite everything later. So they're going to just rewrite the whole text engine, and then that'll support any sort of text features that you might all want. Exporting animation to the dev team, absolutely, that would be nice. Customizable keyboard shortcuts, that would be nice as well. Animation timeline, we definitely talked about that yesterday. What else do we get? Live links, that is something that may or may not be in development. Remove border as default. Yes, so this is something the team, it seems like it's such a simple feature, right? But it's something the team is actively thinking about. The reason it's there is likely because of accessibility. If you draw a white rectangle on a white background, you're not going to be able to see it, right? So, a make default button would be nice, but the team is looking into that. Forms, yep, yeah, pretty good suggestions. I know a lot of some of these things are either in development or something the team is thinking about, but it's only so much that they can do. So hopefully in the next year or so, we'll see some pretty fancy stuff.
It's exciting, man.
I hope so.
Why do you say you hope? Like there's that's dangling on very little faith. I know there's voodoo magic happening back there.
I obviously have information that most people here do not have, and without going into detail, there have been features that have been actively in development previously, and then either because of the pandemic or because of a shift in priorities internally, those specific features were put on the shelf, and they just haven't been completed yet because priorities have shifted or the application has changed so much that that feature would have to be completely rewritten. So I don't want to get too excited about things because I know things can change very quickly for various reasons. So things happen.
I hear you. And now Um, this is there's two ways I would do this. Because we're on Adobe Live and there's a time limit, because I want to kind of go in here and like press this load more and have it expand. How I would do this in like real life terms is I would actually create a component of this entire menu. But going back through all of this, oh, I moved the menu. Okay, we need to go back and fix that. We did not mean to scroll that up. But yeah, I would make this a component and make all the interactions happen within this versus kind of how I'm about to do it. But I do want to kind of go back here and bring this menu where it should be back to its rightful place.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, Kevin's saying full editor in the browser. So obviously I can't talk about what is planned in the future, but what I will say is that Photoshop and Illustrator just announced that they are coming to the browser. You know, obviously at the beginning it's a beta. There are going to be a lot of features missing. It's going to, be built over time, but seeing that Photoshop and Illustrator are coming to the browser, you never know what the future holds for XD.
How many, out of curiosity, how many things are in tandem with new features, things like that, like without saying anything and revealing what's behind the, door number 1 of XD, or all the doors, like how many features typically are in R&D?
Oh gosh. So there are a lot. Internally on the XD team, there are, I don't know how many squads. There's a squad that focuses on prototyping. There's one that focuses on design systems and some basic features and quality of life improvements and collaboration, all sorts of different things. And then even within those, there's like on the prototyping side, there was a Lottie squad and a video squad, and there are also at the same time there are people exploring things like timelines and motion effects and that sort of thing. And then there are, even though at Adobe Max we announced video support and Lottie support as the 2 big features, that certainly doesn't mean that those are the only features that we've been working on. It's been confirmed previously that Pages is something that's been working on. And again, without going into too much detail, that has been in active development for quite some time, even throughout Max, and way before that, because that's a feature that touches basically every aspect of the application. So, it's going to take naturally a little bit longer to complete. So there are features that, have been in development for quite some time. Video, for example, it's been in active development probably, 6 months to a year. But before that, there was a lot of research, development, research and designing and thinking and back and forth with stakeholders and executives. So, one feature like video could be 2 years in the making, right? So there's a lot going on at the same time that, sometimes it may not seem like it because we only release, 1 or 2 features at Adobe Max, even though they're very large. There's a lot going on.
I can only imagine. Well, first off, I just wanted to say I would really love to put on LinkedIn like the Lottie squad, but I highly doubt you can because of because it's in the stage where you can't really publicize that. But I totally would be stealing that. That would be on my LinkedIn status, the Lottie squad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you guys refer to yourselves as that? And there has to be some fun like.
They do
names,
have,
no?
each team usually has some sort of a code name or something like that. I probably can't reveal things.
Sorry, my bad. I'm putting you in like a...
No, it's fine. Okay. But yeah, I've heard the word squad kind of floating around. I haven't heard Lottie squad, but hey, maybe they'll run with it. So there's been more talk about, I'm just like rambling on. I'm sorry, Brandon.
No, you're good. Well, these are good conversations. I'm over here. This is more what we're talking about is probably more interesting than me diving into these little. I'm literally just trying to make a component the correct way, how professionals should be doing it, and I'm just like, hopefully this is correct.
I'll just tackle one more conversation that's going on in the chat, and that's all about XD for the iPad. Rebecca brought that up, and she said that XD for iPad would make my consultant travel life so much better. So something we talked about yesterday as well. I think the truth of the matter is there just isn't enough demand for a native version of XD on the iPad. It's primarily used on the desktop, and again, seeing that Photoshop and Illustrator are coming to the web, if there is a time where XD does land on the web, then technically you can use XD on the iPad as well, as long as you're connected to the internet. But there just isn't enough demand for a native version of XD on the iPad to dedicate resources, probably a lot of resources, to porting that over.
All right, I'm trying to. Okay, so we have that, but we need to do the full thing. Yeah. All right. This is where I always get and this is why I don't do the massive components, because when you don't have a lot of time, I don't have enough time to think about the whole massive things and how they're gonna work together. So I'm just gonna bootleg this, guys. I was hoping I could do the proper sort of UI kit when you're working internally and you have to reuse components and make everybody's life easier. We're gonna have to just, for the sake of time, and those things usually take me a long time to think about. We're just gonna do it this way. When you're doing things, do you feel the same way, Howard? For me, when I have to think about the system, it is not like designing to me. It is I'm using another part of the brain.
Yeah,
or you just have a lot of...
it's easier when I'm not streaming, because I'm looking at chat, I'm thinking about, are my dogs barking, and so not thinking properly. But yeah, when I'm designing by myself, then again, when I'm designing by myself, I don't often follow the proper rules. So I'll get to the point where I should have created that as a component, or I should have added this to my assets or something. Now, thankfully, you can add colors and character styles afterwards. But yeah, I find myself sometimes slipping a little bit and not thinking things through. But if it's a much bigger project, I do try to take a step back and really sketch things out and plan it ahead of time.
Yeah, I guess it is different. Yes, my cat throttled me a little bit, but yeah, to me, it's just a whole nother type of a brain. You have to, I don't know, it's a little bit different. That's actually why, education is a lot more fun, because you get to teach people how to do the cool stuff. But when you start getting into nitty-gritties and you start working at companies where they have just tons and tons of documentation, which is, it's cool in a different way. But I don't think I set this up. I just like to make cool things. There's a difference between painting for yourself and painting for a client, I guess.
Oh, all the time.
Yeah.
That's one thing I love about my job, is I can just, create cool things all day. Like that gaming platform for the
yes.
video and Lottie experience, or whatever it is that the minion or the toy face that I recreated in XD. I get to do this for a living. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it very rarely would we have somebody be like, hey, can I hire? Well, actually, it does happen, but not necessarily. Rarely. It depends on for example, what is it? You did content for a long time, and then you took the opportunity to do kind of the same thing, just triply and doubly inside of Adobe, which is awesome. And so you kind of have to have I guess, proof of work for somebody to be like, hey, you're actually killing it at this thing. Can you come and do that for us? So I'm waiting for somebody to be like, Brandon, the dinosaurs that you draw, top tier.
You also have to be a little bit proactive. When I was exploring what positions were available at Adobe, I was teaching Photoshop previously on YouTube, but I saw that, XD was picking up steam. It was still fairly new. And I thought, they don't have an evangelist. They don't have really anybody. They have a few people that create content, but they don't have enough. Specifically, looking at XD is exploding from when it started. So I started creating XD tutorials, and I think that caught their eye a little bit.
Just a little lot of bit.
It worked. Hashtag Dino Squad, Kevin says.
Dino Squad indeed. All right, so I successfully did our little component here. It should be a self-isolated component, but I kind of faked it for us and literally just created another artboard. These two are facilitating that animation when it should just be a component that I have that does that. And it should be this entire, maybe if we have time, we can do it. We probably will, but I should be componentizing this entire menu, making it expand and contrast. And I spent literally 10 minutes just doing this little section when it should have just been this entire thing. So we'll come back.
Val is asking about your dinosaurs. Can we see them?
Oh, the only reason I said a dinosaur is because I've been looking at this Godzilla thing for the longest.
Oh, you don't actually draw dinosaurs? I'm disappointed,
Brando.
Brando.
Not draw dinosaurs. I went through a phase of drawing a lot of skulls in high school. I wanted to be a tattoo artist, and now we're here.
Well, now you can draw dinosaur skulls, maybe. The best of both worlds.
Exactly, best of both worlds. All right. I think I'm going to do one more thing on this page, and then we might start, because we still have 30 minutes left. So we're going to start moving in this page.
So we do, we do have 30 minutes. We also have probably about 12 minutes before the artist spotlight.
Yes. All right, cool. So I do want to do, what should I do? I do want to kind of do some hover stuff with these little pluses that we have going on here. And how I want to do this is kind of a little bit backwards. And I'm curious, actually, Howard, when you're doing your interactions, this is actually something that I find just difficult in general, has nothing to do with any platform whatsoever, is when I have a design down and then I have an idea for interactions and I'm halfway through the thing, putting in the interactions in a way that makes sense and doesn't mess up. Because for example, if I want to make this a pulsing thing on hover, that's going to change dynamics with, I'm going to have to group it, things of that nature. Or maybe I might not even have to group it. I think this is already, we ungrouped it.
So in this specific case, because these elements are inside of a repeat grid, if you convert this into a component, it's also going to propagate that component in all the other cells of the repeat grid. So you have a little bit of a head start in that matter. But no, I get what you're saying. You can go through an entire flow and then come up with some cool micro interaction later on.
Yeah.
And then you got to pop it everywhere. Something like retroactive. I think what is it? Illustrator has something. I think it's Illustrator. They have a feature where you can essentially create sort of like a component after the fact, and it'll detect all the other similar designs. Something like that in XD would be kind of cool. I don't know if that's something that the team is looking into, but that would be nice.
Yeah, so I wonder, let's see. So if I wanted to do, because the only time I use repeat grids is literally like this. I have never done a animation in them. If I did, it would have been yeah, I would have had component inside this would be a component by itself, and I would just have to go into this and just make this a hover interaction. But I'm well, we've already built the stilts for this building. How do we? I might just have to do it like this again. Just make this the component, and then we'll throw it back in.
That works too.
Yeah, we'll play with that. Hover, and we won't. I'm gonna call this plus. There's just a million in one ways of doing something, and it's just all right. Well, we're in this context. We're about 10 artboards in. Well, what are we going to do so at least it looks cool? All right, so we boom, hover. What I want to do is just scale this puppy up a little bit. And I'm maybe we can use a Lottie thing for this.
Could do that.
Let's see.
And maybe, just maybe at the very end, if we have like two extra minutes, I will show off that hack I was talking about earlier.
Yes.
Maybe. Or yesterday, I think.
Let's see. Maybe we'll just steal these. Like, never mind my purple inferior things. This looks about like. All right, let's see what we can do. What's the size of our things? We're just gonna pull this in here, scale it. Now, granted, it's not the right color, but it's so
close enough.
Yeah, it's there. All right. And all right, so we're gonna pull these out. And let's see. Oh, these are gonna play regardless. Oh wait, no. We can do pink and
yeah, you can create a, like you were doing before, you can create a component and then have the hover effect play the Lottie animation.
So
you want to make sure to edit the main component.
Oh, boom. Hover. Our default we do not want. Actually, so it's not going to play.
Mm-hmm.
Or is this? But why though?
Yeah, so go ahead and select. Nope, go ahead and select the Lottie file. Like dive into the component and select it, and then just set play automatically on the right. Yeah.
All right. And that should work. Okay. So we're gonna have that on the hover. Oh, why did it move?
I think you moved it.
I did, but I was like, why didn't everything come along for the party? All right. All right, all this back and forth. Let's see. All right, think Brandon. Lottie playback. Okay.
I think you're good.
All right, hover. All right, no playback. Okay. All right, cool.
And if you do want to make sure it kicks off immediately, you can switch the hover to transition with no animation.
All right. I'm just gonna skip down here. All right, cool. So we got our little swivels. And
there you go.
All right. What else? I think that's really it for. Oh, okay. We're just gonna pretend that these work. I want to go on to the next page, like getting into like some new stuff. Because I'm just gonna like copy and paste this stuff down here. That might mess up the animation, but
it's a good question from Val. What is the most fulfilling project you've had the pleasure to work on recently? I'll just answer that because I don't really work on anything other than Adobe projects internally, because I would love to, but I just don't have the extra time. But the the video and Lottie promo video that I did, I spent probably about 5 or 6 months working on that thing and like a million revisions, and finally be able to release it into the world. It was wonderful. What about you, Brandon?
I have been in love with doing hosting stuff, man. A lot of the work that I've been doing recently has been either hackathons, creating live stream experiences for other online education platforms. Just hosting things. I like that stuff, being able to facilitate what's happening, because like we both conversated yesterday, there's so many other people out there who are doing the same thing, who are like, we're in the same field, but they add on to what it is that we are kind of good at. And it's just like, wow, like I don't know how to do any of the stuff that they're doing, and I'm learning while watching. I just, kind of set the stage in the experience, and that you can see cool people just like do their thing.
Oh, no, totally. I love, even though, I mentioned earlier, I don't like talking to people or people in general, but I love hosting these Adobe Live sessions because I can sit down with someone like you. I can watch you fail and laugh. But honestly, seeing another designer work and seeing their workflow, that's different than mine or different than someone else's, it's fun because you can learn new ways to tackle a project or get new ideas for interactions. And of course, as someone internal, you can get ideas for new features or, pass feedback along to the team.
Yeah. So I really love, the streaming sort of environment that we're in right now, where not only do you get to see people do cool stuff, but it's just way easier to just meet new people. Like I'm very for Adobe Max to come back to, rather the world go back to kind of normal. But one thing that I do super appreciate about minus the fact that I have no idea why this icon does not want to be my friend and go back to, oh, it's opacity. Okay. That people are more comfortable meeting digitally and hanging out digitally. In cases where I would probably never be exposed to them or have a conversation with these people who are virtual, those things have just exploded. And I think the speed in which even more, where social, that's pretty fast. But now there's a comfortability where, because we've had to be online, there's even more information exchanging faster and making people smarter, with the quickness. Like, I can't keep up with what's happening. There's so many avenues in crypto, and I'm just like reading up to 12 o'clock trying to figure out not only the financial side of things, but like the commerce side of things. It's a whole new world. And, even though I'm invested in a lot of cryptocurrencies and different types of projects like that, you have to be very careful because just, one example that came up this week is there was, based on the Squid Game, someone created a squid coin, and there was literally nothing behind it. There wasn't an idea, there wasn't a project, there wasn't an end game. It was just some hype coin that, people invested a lot of money into, and then the creators of it, whoever they are, they just ran off. And it's so dangerous. You have to be so careful with these sorts of things. And things are changing so quickly, like you mentioned. It's crazy. Yeah, so that's what I'm excited to talk to new people. I'm excited to, I think that's the main thing, just to be able to have the experience in talking with people I wouldn't have the ability to have access to. That's I know that's not a project, but that's what I'm most excited about right now with the kind of landscape that we're in.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have about 1 minute until the creator spotlight. And then after that, if we do have a few minutes, I'm going to show off that little hack and see. Right. Could be fun.
I'm excited. All right. So I am essentially, for the longest time, I didn't know. I was like, okay, so we made this page, but I don't know how we were supposed to get to it. And I was like, okay, there's your videos, and we're going to transition over to my video section where I can upload, and I can essentially basically just make a whole bunch of other videos. I mean, that we're kind of done. These are like my past videos. I can decide to load more if I wanted to. Mm-hmm. I think we actually might just squeeze that, pull this load more up button up, and let's think. I'll bring this all the way. Are you allowed to talk about what projects you're looking at in the metaverse, or is this an after conversation? Because I think that's interesting.
Well, the metaverse, I haven't really. It's so new that I haven't. I did release some sort of like exploration of a design for metaverse type of things, but in terms of like cryptocurrency and that sort of, I try not to talk about that because I don't want to give any sort of
no financial
bad investment advice. I do a lot of research into the coins I invest in, but I certainly don't want to, push anybody down a certain path and have them invest in something that ends up being some sort of funky project.
I understand.
Let's go ahead and switch over and let's take a look at this creator that you've been hyping so much.
Every 5 seconds.
Igor. Igor's in the chat, actually. I've seen him in here. Igor, where are you?
The avid Adobe Liver. So
yeah, he's here somewhere.
Yeah, he's definitely in here.
Yeah, I think I responded to something about him, something he asked earlier.
So this was, like I was saying yesterday, we were doing SpaceX redesign challenges in October. And so this was before, mind you, any update. And I'm not sure if you guys are going to get audio from my desktop, but that's not even needed. So everything that we see here was straight out of XD, to my knowledge. I don't know how, but it's quite insane. It's quite a while.
If he was able to do this previously, I can't wait to see what Igor does with video and Lottie now.
I know. That's what I was saying. I was like, man, not trying.
I can't wait till Starship actually launches. Oh, so excited for that.
What is Starship?
It's SpaceX's next. So they have the Falcon Heavy right now. Oh, sorry, they have Falcon 9 and the Falcon Heavy. They're the ones that are launching pretty frequently. Falcon Heavy a little bit less so, but the Starship is the one that's going to eventually go to Mars. And they've been doing some tests, a few kilometers up and then down. But it's going to be massive. It's quite exciting.
Are you going to be the first live streamer on Mars for Adobe? Is this non-confirmed but confirmed internally?
Hey, if Adobe wants to pay for my trip to Mars or even just into orbit, I will absolutely go. Hey, if William Shatner at 90 years old can go to space, or the edge of space, so can I.
Yeah. And I think there's even is this a playing version? Or what is this? Oh, this is another. I think that one's just mocked up in a whatchamacallit. But this was a super fun, and this is just one of his projects. Like, he makes me want to cry on the regular. Like, he also that's the tutorial. But he's got a lot of. I think this was an older project. This was XD still. I think this is how I found him, actually, was through this project. And then this was just like the tip of the iceberg. I think this is like a year and a half. Yeah, I think this is pretty old, but it's still really hot.
This is very impressive.
Yeah. It's just like it requires a moment of silence.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
I'm just taking it all in.
He was the one that kind of showed me some of the very like the auto scrolling things, like how he does some of the masking, complex masking stuff. But I think, yeah, you guys are in the same space when it comes to that. But it's just really clean stuff.
Yeah. A lot of rocket ships in the chat.
I'm glad you guys are digging it.
Cornell's saying, but you have the rights to use the SpaceX logo in your project, right?
It's for educational purposes only.
I mean, fair use is a thing. I'm not a lawyer, so I'm not even going to comment on that. But I know that NASA, for example, because it's a government-funded agency, I believe everything that all their media assets are. Again, I'm not a lawyer, so don't. But I believe all their media assets are what is it? Creative Commons, I think. Mm-hmm. So you can use those. But SpaceX is different because it's, even though they have partnerships and deals with the government, I don't think they're government funded. So yeah, don't quote me on anything.
No quotes at all.
Yeah, but typically, if you're doing things like this, design explorations, no one's going to sue you. If you're trying to pass as SpaceX and trying to sell something and make deals with the government, probably not a good idea.
Yeah, that's the one where you're going to get slapped on the wrist and get some mail.
Yeah, I can't imagine Elon Musk is going to go here and say, you know what, let's sue Igor. Maybe he'll hire him because this is amazing stuff.
There's some really good stuff, and we probably don't have all the time to like go through all, like there is a lot, as you just saw, guys. I kind of like scrolled through. I think this is one of his older pieces, but if you guys are really interested in some of the high level stuff that I can't necessarily do in an hour, Howard, and Igor are definitely the go-tos for them long projects. But yeah, that's Igor for you, ladies and gentlemen. Those are that's the tip of the iceberg.
I love seeing, one thing I've heard a lot of people give feedback on Behance portfolios, and some have said, your older stuff, just get rid of it because it's not relevant anymore and it's not at the same quality as your newer stuff. And I get that feedback, but I also love seeing the older stuff. Not that Igor's older work is not good. It's still very good. It's just looking at that compared to that SpaceX one or any of the ones at the top of his portfolio, you can really see how much Igor has improved over whatever that time period was. So in some cases, I would say just keep some of that older stuff there because it just really shows how much you have been able to grow over a year, 2 years, or whatever it might be.
Yeah. So this is actually really cool. I'm not gonna jump into this, but the Terminator one is definitely really cool too. These are my favorite: SpaceX, Terminator, and the VW. Okay, so I guess are we doing your fancy dancy tip?
Yeah, I can probably do something kind of quick. Let's see.
All right, let's play.
I'm gonna share my screen and. All right. Now it might be a little, there we go. Okay. Paco's setting things up. I didn't warn Paco about this ahead of time, so I apologize. My bad, Paco. There we go. Thank you. Paco's always on it. All right. So let me preface by saying that this is very much a hack, not in the illegal sense, but it's a workaround for a feature that we've all wanted. Time triggers on component states. It's something we've confirmed is in the works. It's in development. It'll be released when it's ready. But there is a little bit of a workaround that you can kind of get around, right? So here's the project that I released. It's an absolute mess. This is just like one of many files of this project. But this section here, right? This chat section, it's a bunch of states. So we have a default state, which is nothing. And then when I actually click on the send button down here at the bottom, let me move this over. No, I can't. Right? All the chat messages come on through. And this thing pops up with a Lottie animation. But aside from this little guy here, none of these are actually Lottie animation. And it's all happening on one artboard. So how is that done? You might be asking. Well, that's a great question. I'm going to duplicate this. And I'm going to show you how this is done. I'm going to group all this. So here we have our chat. And in here we have all of our messages. Hold on, where did they all go? Messages, here we go. So they're all hidden, right? And again, these are not Lottie files. So we can't really use the end of playback trigger straight out of the box. But what we can do is we can use what I have over here. It's just it's essentially a blank Lottie file. It was created in After Effects. I just created a red box, and I think there's a minimum length. I think it's like 2 frames or something like that. So it's a 2-frame Lottie file, Lottie animation, which essentially takes like half a second to actually kick off. So what you can do is you can put that inside of a component, just kind of hide it somewhere. And what that will allow you to do is I'm going to create a component now, and I'm going to create a new state, state 2. And So state 2, I want one of the messages to pop up. This one right up here.
Yeah.
Right? Again, not a Lottie file, but there is that blank Lottie file inside of it. So now in this case, I would press send and it would go to the second state. So let's go ahead and select that. And this is going to go to state 2. We can do a transition. We don't need any sort of animation. And that one's simple, right? We don't need any sort of fancy workaround for that. But after that second message or the first message comes in, after that first message comes in, we want the second message to come in as well by itself. And without time triggers on component states, really isn't possible. But let's create one more new state. And in here, we're going to reveal the next message. But what we want to do now is utilize that blank Lottie file. So in prototype mode, I'm going to find that file here. Actually, I want to make sure it's playing automatically first in this second state. And then in prototype mode, we can add an additional trigger by clicking on the plus button. And then in the properties inspector, we're going to use the end of playback trigger. And then we're going to transition to state number 3. So now, and we can even give it a little bit of a delay. So end of playback, we can actually delay this, maybe the time trigger, maybe 0.4 seconds, right? And then from the default state, we're going to press play. And that second message came in automatically, even though that is not a Lottie file. Because there's a Lottie file inside of the component, even though it's hidden, you can still utilize that end of playback trigger to transition to another state. And that's exactly what I did on this larger component. So all of these interactions here that are automatically coming on in, I think I just hovered over something and killed it. So those are all non-Lottie files, but there is that Lottie file inside of it that is tricking it to kind of, work as, a timed component, which is, again, very much a workaround and a hack. But if you really need a component with a time trigger, that's how it's done.
That is awesome. Because I was wondering how you did some of the stuff that you did in this project. And I was like, he didn't touch anything. I was like, how did that happen? So that's actually really cool to see kind of the inner workings of that. And that's what I'm talking about. Like I would never would have thought about that. I would have just been like, okay, well, the only time thing that we have is the, what we've had. And the fact that you were kind of like using that as another tool to get to some pretty interesting animations or just other interactivity is pretty awesome.
I think if I remember correctly, I literally thought about that while I was trying to fall asleep, because that's, I think about animations and things like that while I'm trying to sleep. I don't know why, but I do. And then it just hit me, like end of playback works on Lottie. I can transition to other states. What if I just make a blank Lottie file and just have it trigger immediately? We're like, haha. And then I showed it to a few people internally and they didn't even think about that. And they were just like,
yeah, it's pretty smooth.
Yeah.
All
right, we're going to switch back over to Brandon's screen.
All right, cool beans.
And we'll wrap things up in about 10 minutes.
All right, so we got 10 minutes. Let me just recap myself. Let's see where we're at. Because I do want like a smooth-ish, clean experience. I don't like anything like to be undone. You know what I mean? I want to have like what we've done here today to be at least semi-clean.
I was going to respond to Rebecca's in the chat, but I think it might be a little bit easier just to interrupt you and say it out loud. So Rebecca was asking, where did it go? If we don't have a blank Lottie, would the same trick work with 0% opacity Lottie? Absolutely. Now, the thing you have to keep in mind, the thing that really makes this work is that specific Lottie file that I showed is like 2 frames long or, half a second or whatever it might be. Now, if you have a blank Lottie or a 0% opacity Lottie animation that's 3 seconds long, then you're going to have to wait until that Lottie animation finishes until the transition takes place. So having a 2-frame Lottie animation, that's the key here. It doesn't matter what it looks like. It could be a banana for all I care. It just has to be very short so that the end of playback trigger can trigger almost immediately. How did you create the blank Lottie file? It was just After Effects. It was just like literally a red box with that spanned 2 frames or something like that. If I do create a video on this workaround, which I've been contemplating, I will release that very exclusive red 2-frame Lottie animation.
Why do you say it really exclusive? Is that going to be
Very
like
exclusive.
only?
It's like the most complex animation ever created in the history of Lottie. Hopefully you can tell I'm joking. Literally anybody can create that.
Well, I was like semi trying to follow along. I was like, if I look too much off camera, people are gonna be like, what is he doing? But I did catch some of it. I tried to get the exclusivity right then and there. I'm trying to figure out where I put this little shape. Like I have it selected, but my folders are telling me no, that it is not anywhere in existence. Oh, there it is. Rectangle 15. Let's see. All right, so we're just going to do, when this is clicked, all right, we're going over to this new page. This is going to, I wonder if, no, we're just gonna leave that there. All right, what do we want to do? Because we still have a couple of videos that we can play or pull out. Howard, what do you think we should dive into here? Because I mean, yes, we can add some of the assets in here, but other than that, actually, yeah, what would you want to do? What is the one thing, because we have a little bit of time, what is one thing you would add to this?
What would I mean, I would probably add like a stories experience, because everything has stories these days, but it also allows you to, really showcase things like video and Lottie, because you can have a motion video as the story, and then you can have animated stickers that you can use Lottie animations for.
Where would we put the stories?
You can put maybe in that section there, like if you click on someone's, and you can also create them as overlays. So like on a separate artboard, you can create the story and then actually have that as an overlay on that artboard.
So kind of like, let's see if we can.
Probably makes more sense on a mobile experience, but it could definitely work here too.
I feel like I think I catch your drift. Oops. And actually, when you do overlays, because I also don't do them how most people do them, or like the way that it was intended for XD, I actually just duplicate the thing. How, you know what? We're just gonna do it my way. We're gonna learn the Howard way in a little bit, but we're just gonna do it like this. Just gonna grab my rectangle and I'm just gonna darken everything. But how many people actually use that that overlay? Because I do see a lot of people utilize that. It's just, for me, it's just, when things get super complicated, I just forget. Like, if I were to nest things like that and I return to a file, I would be like, where is everything?
Right.
It makes it very difficult.
For me, once component states was released, I basically use that instead of overlays. But there are some things, like probably the best example is the keyboard on, let's say, an iOS device. When you tap on something, you want the keyboard to pop up. Instead of building that keyboard into every single component, it just makes sense to have one artboard with a keyboard that you can link to from basically any artboard. But yeah, for the most part, I find myself using component states instead, but overlays works in some situations.
Actually, we might try an overlay. I just don't really remember how I do it, but anyway, we'll figure it out. All right, so I am thinking maybe, and we'll work on the sizings and stuff of these things, but these will be like our little story carousel type things.
Ornell is asking what the limitation for Lottie files is. So I think the The limitation for Lottie and video is, I believe it's the same. I know there's documentation somewhere, but I believe it is 20 different Lottie animations per project, I believe. And you can have, I think, as many instances of those as you want, but it's 20 different per project, if I'm not mistaken.
Go. And I am trying to...
You think that 20 Lottie files is enough? I mean, Cornell, for most projects, it might be, but like I mentioned, I think it was yesterday, the those limitations are things that they will improve over time. Once we make sure that if we increase it to 50, we obviously have to stress test it to make sure that if you do have 50 Lottie animations on a project and playing on an artboard, that it's not going to explode your computer. Same thing with videos, which are much more intensive than Lottie files. So these will definitely improve over time. I believe there are already plans to improve some of these limitations in terms of, multiple things playing at the same time, and also how many videos you can have and what file size those videos are. But they have to be tested. So, over time, it'll definitely improve.
So, trying to make like some sort of card thing happen here.
Got about 2 minutes to crank this out, Brandon. And I think Val wanted to see the entire experience from scratch before we wrap things up.
Let's do that. Yeah, I think that's a little bit smarter to do than that, because I'd be sweating the entire time. All right, so the full experience, we did pretty good for the, I think yesterday and today, but we have our loading in of the login. We have our fun video playing to the right. We have our login, everything kind of just goes away. We have our nice little Lottie. There we get phased on into the dash, or really the first landing page that we have of our social platform for creatives. We also have our GIFs playing or not GIFs, but our videos, our preview videos playing for the awesome creators that we have on this platform. And I don't think that went through. I guess we didn't get to it. We got to some sort of animations for our sidebar for those of the people that were following. And I think the last thing was, I don't think we finished it, but yeah, we didn't finish the full transition on over. But that's pretty much what we have from end to end. The stories, this is not going to look hot. I don't even want to kind of like show that, and I don't even know how it would come in. But other than the overlay and then like 5 random cards, we would need a little bit more time to flush that out. But I think we did pretty good.
You can do all of this in like 30 seconds?
In 30 seconds?
No, I'm kidding. But it looks
great. I was
great.
like, we could make the screen dark.
And you've definitely utilized the new features quite well. And I think, hopefully many people who are watching in the chat are getting some ideas, especially some of the advanced implementations like the hover previews and things like that. So great job, Brandon.
We tried, man. Thank you for the hand holding. It was really awesome to see all the cool stuff that you've put together and inspire all of us for the next time around when we're all alone with no cats meowing in the back.
There you go. Big thank you to everyone who has tuned in. Big thank you to Brandon for sticking around and creating this amazing project over the last 2 days. I will be on Behance on Friday with my masterclass. We're definitely going to be going over many of the new features. And that's going to wrap it up. Brandon, where can people find you?
You guys can find me on Instagram at Brandon Groce. You guys can find me on Behance. And that's about it.
Sounds good. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys. See you soon.